Welcome to Next Block Podcast, the #1 Bitcoin podcast in the world, coming to you from Hong Kong. Brought to you by Xverse and 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗓. Eli, thank you so much for joining me today.
Jan, thanks for having me here.
Welcome to Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong is beautiful.
Hong Kong is awesome, and we're here during the Consensus Conference.
Yes.
And, you had an amazing dinner last night. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was great to connect with all those great people in your ecosystem, but beyond as well. And I'm just super excited because this is actually the first episode of this podcast. So, I have personally been doing podcasts before and hosting a lot of different shows, but this one is specific around Hong Kong because we are in Hong Kong. We have a studio in Hong Kong. And of course, we want to focus on Bitcoin, but crypto in general and kind of like the journey, how it all comes back to Bitcoin eventually.
Yes, it started with Bitcoin and it all comes back to Bitcoin.
Exactly. And so, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. A lot of people know you. A lot of people know StarkWare. But I would love for you to maybe spend 5 minutes to give people like a simple overview of your story, how you started in Bitcoin. Then you guys moved into Ethereum, or, you guys moved into like actually building some groundbreaking tech for just crypto in general, something that has not been done before. And now you're pushing back to Bitcoin. So can you just give us a speed up version?
Yeah, I'll give you the short story of my career and StarkWare's trajectory. So I started as a mathematician and theoretical computer scientist. I was a professor of computer science, and I was doing research on ZK proofs. And I started doing mathematical research, then practical research. And in 2013, I was walking around mostly academic places and, sharing the research that we were doing. And I happened to also go to the Bitcoin conference in San Jose. And I presented, hey, we have this marvelous technology that can help Bitcoin with privacy and with scaling. And that was the most electrifying conference I ever attended. And it has completely changed my life's trajectory because as I came off the podium, not too many people attended the talk, but among them were like core devs like Greg Maxwell, Mike Hearn. And they came up and asked, where's the code? When can we use it? And I was very surprised. I said, what do you mean? You actually want this academic stuff? And they said, hell yes, here are like 5 different things we are going to do with it tomorrow. Nice. And they started talking about a whole bunch of things that could be done, conditional transfers and stuff. It still appears on BitcoinTalk.org, things that Greg Maxwell started talking about right after my talk. And I felt deep inside that there's a calling here that I have to follow. So I did more research related to privacy and then scaling. I ended up being one of the co-founders of Zcash, which is based on our work. We realized back then that you can't have like Zcash on top of Bitcoin because that would require a very major hard fork. Same thing with StarkWare. Continued advancing the math, had more breakthroughs. We invented ZK Starks, which is today the leading technology to scale blockchain. And it's post-quantum secure. It has immense scale. Jumping ahead, once Opcat is enabled, with our technology, you can scale Bitcoin to 10,000 transactions per second, 100,000, 1 million transactions per second with no change to Bitcoin's core technology. So StarkWare, we wanted to launch it at Bitcoin, but again, Bitcoin, wasn't ready like in terms of technology for receiving it. So we deployed on Ethereum. But now we're coming full circle back to Bitcoin, which has always been my, first true love.
No, that's awesome. And I want to actually double click on that. But first, so this is interesting, right? So you said in 2013, like the Bitcoiners, the OG Bitcoiners were like really interested in the stuff that you guys were doing. So what was the reason? Was it just a tech reason, or was it even back in the days already like politics and stuff that they actually didn't really want to do anything with what you guys presented, even though you said they were so interested, they were writing blog posts about it and stuff like that? What was the feedback, or what was the situation?
No, there was. I think that folks like Greg Maxwell, there was a lot of receptiveness for it. They said that's not our burning problem right now, because Bitcoin did
it.
not have a scale problem back then.
Makes sense.
And also, there were two variants of the technology, and the one they liked more is the ZK Stark one that doesn't have any trusted setup, is post-quantum secure, and that wasn't ready back then. So I think now, since then, Greg Maxwell has sort of stepped down.
Yep.
A lot of people have been burned, I think. But if Satoshi was around, I'm pretty sure he would have approved and wanted, this technology.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So let's go to today.
Yes.
Right. So what I find interesting about you guys specifically, and I guess there are maybe other companies in the space that want to like double down on Bitcoin, but you guys specifically, I mean, you guys are established company.
Yes.
You guys are established chain. I don't know what's the market cap today, but obviously it goes up and down. I think, couple months ago, it was like above $1 billion, FDV, right? So it's like very established company, very, very big company, obviously huge team.
Yes.
And you're basically now making a statement. You're saying like, hey, we're basically betting the future of this company, or at least partially the future of this company, on Bitcoin, and the fact that we may actually see some sort of improvements and soft work like OpCat happening in Bitcoin. So like, what made you to make that decision as the CEO or as the, executive in this company? Because obviously it's like a huge bet, right? If it doesn't work out, like what's going to happen?
Yeah. So it is a huge bet. And it is today, if you look at things, it is a very long route until OpCat is adopted. But I mean, that's in our DNA. We work very hard. We take very, very long-term views on technology. If you look at our products, all of them have completely been way ahead of the market. And for instance, when we came out with ZK Starks and saying this is the way to scale blockchains, Ethereum, everything else, people did not accept this and did not believe. They thought that like other forms of cryptography are better suited. Today, this debate has been settled. Everything, all scaling teams that are working on Ethereum are already embracing the stuff that I invented, this ZK Starks. Same thing, we invented a new virtual machine and programming language that initially people were apprehensive about and said, why are you not going with EVM or with some standard programming language that's already out there? And we told them, look, this is the best way to get the next generation of smart contract languages that also leads to very efficient scale. And today, there's wider acceptance that this is the way to go forward. So some of the Polygon teams, for those familiar with them, even within core Ethereum Foundation discussions, people realize that you need a different programming language, one and a different virtual machine, and we already led the way. So now going back to Bitcoin, StarkWare and Starknet has always been about taking very long-term, visionary, bold bets. And I feel very comfortable making this kind of bet and saying this is the way forward. Bitcoin has to scale. Otherwise, it will end up like a Rolex, an asset for the rich. And that would be just so depressing if all this work and effort and all this goodwill ended up as just being some new asset class for rich people, as opposed to a new infrastructure for people all around the world to be empowered, self-custodial, transacting in digital gold. Like, so I have to do this, right? I have to try and help. I'm not doing this alone, of course, but I have to be a part of this effort to save Bitcoin and return it to its origins and what it is really about.
Yeah, I like that perspective. I think on one hand, the way I look at it, obviously from the Xverse side of things, we also want to see more and more people coming in, and we want to see broader adoption of Bitcoin. And so from our perspective, it's really like, save Bitcoin and kind of like go back to the roots and enable like more sophisticated applications, better self-custody, and all of these things that people talk about. But then really like, just like having more applications and like, let's build better payments, right? Because Lightning is amazing. I mean, it's great, right? Like it was adopted by all the Bitcoiners early on, but like the adoption even today is not that great.
It
right?
cannot. It's a technology that won't solve the problem. It cannot scale. You cannot reach 100,000 TPS and 1,000,000 TPS, which is transactions per second, which is what is needed in order to achieve Satoshi's original intent and vision in his white paper. You must have technology like ZK Stark powering scale on Bitcoin to allow for self-custodial, true global scale for Bitcoin. It's the only way forward.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, I'm not an expert, I'm not a researcher, but like I've been observing the market, and what makes me like really bullish on this direction and like convinced that this direction, again, is it the only one? Probably not. We can have many different ideas and experiment with many different things, but what makes me believe that this direction is at least correct is that a lot of people in the Lightning community and the OG Bitcoin community, they do want covenants as well. Like something that 𝗕𝗢𝗪𝗓 would enable, right? Or potentially other soft forks on Bitcoin that would enable that, right? And so it's really like, you know, at the beginning, to be honest, like when I first like learned about like, hey, like we want to do soft fork of Bitcoin, I was like, okay, is it just like these Ordinals people that are interested in it? And that would probably be weird, right? But now, like after doing some more research and you see all of these conferences around the world where the devs are like meeting up and talking about these things, it's not just about that, right? It's not just about the Degens.
Yeah.
But I would 100% love to see better Lightning because I love the idea that I can just pull up my phone. I am in Hong Kong. I'm at the conference. And I can just send somebody $3, $5. I can pay for something, pay for a beer immediately. I mean, people already do that, but like, I would love to see that at scale, right?
Look, I today do almost all of my dollar transactions. Sorry, in any currency that I need to pay. You know, I told you I just had an excellent cup of Vietnamese coffee here nearby in Hong Kong. Very good. I mean, the food is amazing. And earlier, you know, I love sushi, especially in Hong Kong. I had sushi. I paid using a Starknet transaction.
Nice.
Through a credit card that is enabled by the Argent wallet. So all of this is like seamlessly done. You can, and the reason this can be done is that Starknet uses these ZK Stark proofs in order to massively scale and allow people to do their daily transactions. So I'm not a degen, you know, I don't have any...
well, you need some Ordinals though, Ali. You need to get some Ordinals, okay? I mean, you have a Quantum Cat for sure too, no?
I don't think I have a Quantum Cat.
Okay,
I should talk to Eric and
Well,
Woody.
we need to make sure that you get some Ordinals, you know?
Okay, but, you know, I'm not, let's say I'm not an active degen, but the fact that I today pay for my daily transactions using a layer 2, a scaling solution that is today on Ethereum, but tomorrow hopefully is on Bitcoin, is actually exactly what we want to achieve. I want people to be able to do their daily transactions in Bitcoin, where they, you know, a transaction costs less than a cent and you can have global scale. Now, I know that this is achievable. The technology exists today. All you need is to add these 9 lines of code to the Bitcoin client. And these 9 lines of code were actually already added by Satoshi.
Yes.
That's the only thing needed. It's a little bit like Archimedes said, you know, give me a point of like scale and I can move the earth. So give me these 9 lines of code and we can make Bitcoin the infrastructure for tomorrow's economy.
Yeah, it's amazing. And again, I mean, obviously I'm bought into that vision. One more question on this, because that's also something that a lot of people discuss, especially when it comes to the soft fork of Bitcoin. So you mentioned 𝗕𝗢𝗪𝗓, and obviously Eric, Udi, the Taproot Wizards team, they've been pushing 𝗕𝗢𝗪𝗓.
Yes.
That's why Quantum Cats, I mentioned that. But what if like some other soft fork happens? Let's say I see a lot of people talk about the 𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗡 additional, like another kind of covenants enabling soft fork. So would that be okay with you guys? Would that be enough for that? Or, you know, do you think we will actually eventually see multiple soft forks in the future?
I hope so. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is a software system, and software systems have to upgrade, right? Otherwise, they become ossified and they become useless. So I think the most important thing is for Bitcoin to feel comfortable invoking these soft forks and having some decentralized process for implementing them, because otherwise if none of these soft forks happen, it means Bitcoin is destined to become a Rolex. It's destined to become something that only the rich have, and the rest of us can maybe access through trusted third parties. But that is not Satoshi's vision. If you read his white paper, like the very first 2 paragraphs, he said, we need a way for people to, without any third-party intermediary, to transact, any 2 parties to do that. That's literally his mission. And today we are failing his mission. And we know how to achieve it. Add these 9 lines of code. So I'm all for CTV. I'm all for any soft fork, because this will get people more, comfortable with the idea that Bitcoin can and must evolve in a conservative way, but still evolve.
Yeah. No, totally. Okay, so this is great context. I would love to maybe move, because I don't know how much time we have left, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, so we still have some time, but I want to talk about, obviously, our collaboration.
Yes,
because
very excited about it.
I'm very excited about it too. Obviously, I represent Xverse. We're the leading Bitcoin ecosystem wallet today.
Yes.
And you guys are pushing very heavily, for the Bitcoin ecosystem to be more programmable and scalable. And it aligns with our vision, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want to achieve is like anybody, anywhere, can just easily set up Xverse wallet, which is super simple these days. You don't even actually need a seed phrase anymore, because we have these like passkeys and
amazing
iCloud and Google Cloud backups and everything. We actually just launched a new version today. Everybody should check it out.
Amazing.
But so it's pretty simple to just download an app, set up your wallet, and then be able to do so many different things with your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You can degen with Ordinals. You can degen with runes or some other tokens. You can do some DeFi. You can do payments. But again, we're not there yet, right? We're just kind of warming up, I would say, in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I'm just like super excited that, we got together a couple of months ago and we started talking about this potential collaboration, that we could do something really big, strategic. And so you guys are basically coming into our ecosystem as a strategic partner.
Yes.
And we're going to be integrating with your infrastructure into Xverse. And hopefully, at some point in the future, pretty soon, if there is a soft fork and we can actually have proper Bitcoin L2s and proper Bitcoin applications built with the new upgraded version of Bitcoin, then it's going to be just Bitcoin. You don't even have to care about anything else, any other tokens, whatever it is. So tell me, are you excited? Why?
I am.
What are we doing from here,
First of all, I'm super excited to be partnering with Xverse and with you. And the main reason is that, StarkWare, the sort of labs team of StarkNet, is this extremely powerful engineering-oriented powerhouse, math innovators, engineering innovators.
Yeah.
We are not, our strength is not at go-to-market, distribution, end users. That's not our forte, and we recognize that. So I'm just so excited to be partnering with, the very best Bitcoin wallet that has mass adoption and is doing it on a grand scale in the best possible way in terms of UX and security. So this is like, we can focus on what we're good at. You can focus at what you're good at. And what my vision is to make StarkNet offer to the world the security and trust of Bitcoin and all of the utility and expressibility of Ethereum, right? The best of both worlds, combine them together and have the world, be given access to this wonderful innovation, right? The original vision of Satoshi alongside the expressibility and all the fun stuff that can be done with smart contracts. And that's my vision, to make StarkNet, well, first of all, Bitcoin's economy layer, and also execution layer, and also allow Bitcoin to have expressibility, good UX, with partnering with teams like you, and all of the capabilities of DeFi, fast payments, fast finality, and all the other things that you need to, as a user, transact in the world today.
Yeah, totally agree there. I think, what is actually another question that I have for you. So imagine that like we already have what you need. We have those 9 lines of code that you mentioned that we need to bring to Bitcoin. We already have it today.
Yeah.
It happened magically, something happened.
Yeah.
What is the first thing? What is maybe the first use case that you guys would like to go after very aggressively? Because many people talk about, yesterday, Eric actually at the dinner, he was talking about the vaults, right? That you can do better self-custody of your Bitcoin.
Yes. I would like, just like I paid for my coffee, my Vietnamese coffee, and my sushi I paid using, in that case, it was USDC, but like immediately on top of Starknet, I would like to be able to buy it, next time, like next year, using Bitcoin with a very fast payment, very good UX on Xverse.
Let's go.
In a way that costs me, let's say, per transaction less than 1 cent. That's the number one thing I would like to do. Now, I know that many of the Degen users would like to do a whole bunch of fun stuff, launch runes and meme coins and ordinals, and do DeFi and have perps and lending platforms and things backed by Bitcoin.
Yes.
I would love to see that enabled. I must confess that I'm a little bit more, on the sort of Degen to boomer. I'm sort of closer to a boomer. I'm not a big consumer of wild yield DeFi, but I understand that the early adopters or some of them more there. So that's fine. I would love for them to, lead the way on that as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, when you kind of observe crypto in general, right? Like Degens kind of always lead the way because they are the ones that are exploring the chains and they're doing all these crazy things. Obviously, they have an incentive. They can make a lot of money potentially on chain. But it's also like they're testing, they're, pushing the limits of these technologies. And then we see it like, after 1 or 2 cycles, we see big companies coming in and like launching stable coins and like scaling these things and launching their own blockchains for like their corporate use cases and stuff like that. So I think like the Degens actually matter so much.
Oh, yes.
Because they're at the birth of everything.
Yes.
And we see the same thing in Bitcoin, right? Because I think it's a very interesting story because we have been building in the Bitcoin ecosystem for around 3.5, maybe close to 4 years now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the days, there was not much you could do, right? Like we actually only started to see a lot more adoption with Ordinals, with the birth of Ordinals, and then the fungible tokens on Bitcoin, BRC20 tokens, runes, and obviously now you also see people building DeFi applications and stuff like that. So I really think that like, never bet against the Degens, always go where the Degens are.
Yes.
And then obviously build on the top of that, right?
Yes.
I think that's the path.
Yeah, I agree. The Degens are the vanguard that leads the rest of us. And definitely, I think some of the very first things also on top of Starknet that are going to happen, there's going to be a runes bridge and there's going to be trading with runes. We're going to see hopefully a lot more yield-bearing BTC on top of Starknet. Further down the line, we'll see some DeFi applications that are backed by, lending and perps things based on or backed by Bitcoin. And, then we'll see where this leads to.
I see a huge demand for a couple things because people, builders, investors already investing in those areas. One, obviously payments would be great. Have like really reliable, scalable payments. Just use my Bitcoin. Don't have to care about anything else. As you said, I have a credit card linked to my Xverse wallet. I just go scan, ready to go, right? I think, again, that's something that anybody in the world who is part of the digital world wants to use.
Definitely.
And needs to use. So that's obviously a big one. Then you also see, I see it more and more on my timeline, more and more startups are getting into like, never sell your Bitcoin. So you have your Bitcoin and you can borrow against it, right? You can borrow fiat, you can borrow some other crypto, stable coins, whatever. And again, use it for payments, do whatever you want to do. But like this kind of basic DeFi that never sell your Bitcoin. Why would you sell your Bitcoin? I want to sell my Bitcoin. So I'm just going to have it there. And hopefully I'm going to have some application, something really solid that in a self-custody manner, I can just borrow against it. And then, yes, obviously on the Degen side, which is actually, again, like the biggest use case today is like all these different, trading of the fungible tokens make it easier because, yes, a lot of people complain that it's not wrong, right? When you say that trading fungible tokens on Bitcoin is clunky right now. It's slow. There's really not much you can do. So, so improvements of that would be extremely bullish to drive attention, to drive people to actually use that chain.
Yes.
So
I agree.
Amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe like a couple more words. So like, is there any message, anything that you would like to leave our audience? Obviously, my and our audience is mostly like Bitcoin curious people and Bitcoin users, the Degens, obviously the people that are using the current applications and maybe people that are kind of like seeing what's next. So what would you like to leave that audience with?
Okay, my message to the audience is one of gratitude because right now, okay, my biggest fear is that Bitcoin ossifies and becomes a Rolex, right? Something that, if you own, you never do anything with it. It's something that only the rich have and the rest of us can access through third-party investment, okay? Now, the biggest force right now that could cause us to avert this destiny of having Bitcoin become a Rolex, something for the rich, right? Yet another asset class. The biggest force countervening and pushing against this are the Degens, who are coming and saying, we want to do so much more with Bitcoin and we'll show you how we're going to use it in more ways. And this, I think, is extremely important. Like the Ordinals and the Taproot Wizards and all of these things are basically coming and saying, hey, we will not accept a world in which Bitcoin becomes a Rolex, right? We need this thing to be so much more creative and crazy and so on. So my message is one of gratitude and thanking and saying, keep up the spirit of, anarchy and demanding more and Degenness and saying we are not content with Bitcoin becoming a Rolex.
Yeah, never bet against the Degens,
Yep.
We already heard it once, but, I fully agree with you. I mean, the Degens, the early users, early adopters are showing us the way.
Yes.
And even I wouldn't be here without them.
Yes.
If there was no demand for Bitcoin NFTs, for Ordinals, for tokens, for degenning on chain, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. So
I agree.
I share the message, and thank you so much for coming. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Jan,
it.
For doing so much for Bitcoin and for being a conduit towards this message of let Bitcoin flourish and not ossify.
Let's make it happen.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, repost, subscribe, and I will see you next time.